Rings of Power director J.A. Bayona revealed that producers of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, actually wanted to cut one of the show's worst scenes, but he was able to convince them to keep it in. Now, obviously, I don't think that cutting this scene would have saved the show or redeemed it in any way, but at least it would have had one less subversive scene in it. And I think this is the worst scene in the entire show because of the themes that it tries to push. I wrote this up over at phantompulse.com. Bayona informed NME back in 2023 that producers wanted to cut the scene where Galadriel takes a boat to Valinor. He said this: they tried to take it out because they didn't have the money. However, he said he convinced them to keep the scene, saying, I actually convinced them that we were going to be able to shoot that scene in the budget. Now, obviously, I'm not sure if I actually buy that, but that is what he is saying, and they obviously did indeed keep this scene in the show. And that scene in question, like I said, is Galadriel taking the boat to Valinor. You can watch it over here on phantompulse.com. I'll have the link in the description below, as I said. But what happens is Galadriel and a number of elves arrive at Valinor, or at least arrive to the gates of Valinor, and begin hearing pleasant music and see a flock of birds begin to encircle them. The other elves on the boat begin singing the pleasant music as Galadriel looks around, puzzled. The tone of the scene quickly changes as ominous music begins playing, and the clouds begin to part and a bright light emerges from behind them. As the boat begins to approach the light, Galadriel begins to slowly back away from it. When one of her fellow elves encourages her to take his hand, Galadriel reaches her hand out but never grasps her fellow elf's hand. She then remembers what her brother told her about how to determine whether the light is true or not, or which one she should follow. If you remember back at the very beginning of this first episode of the show, Finrod is talking to her as when their two are children, and she's asking, sometimes the light can shine just as bright from a reflection from the water. How can I tell which one is actually true? And Finrod tells her, sometimes we cannot know until we have touched the darkness. So you literally hear him say this. It cuts back to that scene, flashes back, and then Galadriel at this point literally has her hand in the light of Valinor. She then rejects it and then leaps off the boat and dives into the water with her brother's sword as the boat enters into Valinor. I found this scene absolutely despicable. It clearly indicated how absolutely garbage this show was going to be, and it never recovered from this scene. This scene set the tone of the entire show for me. It showed how absolutely selfish Galadriel was. It showed that they were literally trying to depict Valinor as this darkness. I mean, it doesn't get any clearer. You hear Finrod saying, sometimes we cannot know until we have touched the darkness. Galadriel is literally touching Valinor, and then she jumps off it and leaves, indicating that Valinor is somehow this darkness. That's what the show is trying to tell you. And I just found that absolutely repulsive because, as we'll get to, Valinor is basically heaven. And that's how Tolkien kind of describes it in a letter to Milton Baldwin, which we'll get to here in a little bit. So this scene is anathema to Tolkien's lore in a number of ways. I think I kind of just described the main one. The biggest one is the scene can be interpreted as Galadriel rejecting the true light of Valinor and even potentially seeing it as darkness in order to stay in Middle-earth. In fact, we had showrunner J.D. Payne discuss the scene with USA Today, saying this: she has a difficult conversation with Elrond where she says, if I go to Valinor right now, it would be heaven, but it might not be heaven for me because I'm taking so much pain inside me, and I also don't really know if I finish the mission that I'm in Middle-earth to do. So it wouldn't be heaven. That's what he's saying. It's not heaven. It's not heaven, even though it would be heaven. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But that's what he says. And then he ridiculously frames this as a very selfless thing and huge sacrifice, but also very necessary. That's just, I can't even imagine thinking that. Like, it's so utterly insane and ridiculous. Describing rejecting heaven as selfless rather than the selfish act that it is. Like, you're literally rejecting Christ's love, God's love for you in order to stay in Middle-earth because you think you know what you need to do more than what he wants you to do. I mean, this is so evil and wicked. And then to be clear, in letter 131, as I said, To Milton Waldman, Tolkien wrote this of Valinor, that it is a kind of paradise, the home of the gods. In that same letter, he even noted how Sauron deceived the elves by promising them that they could make Middle-earth as beautiful as Valinor, and how this deception was really a veiled attack on the gods, an incitement to try and make a separate, independent paradise. I mean, this is literally the choice that Galadriel is making. She thinks that she knows better than God. Like, she thinks she knows better. I have to go do this mission in Middle-earth. That is what I need to do, instead of accepting the peace, the blissfulness, the paradise of Valinor, right? I mean, just, it's sick. It's absolutely sick. And then she even sees Valinor as evil and wicked, right? I mean, because she jumps off of it. You hear, like, sometimes you have to touch the light in order to know whether it's darkness or not. And then she literally is touching it and then jumps off. So she thinks that that's actually wicked and evil, right? I mean, geez. I mean, it's horrible. I hated this scene. And the fact that they almost cut it, it's like, why didn't you do it? You had the opportunity. You should have done it. Anyways, Tolkien goes on and informs Waldman that once the world was made round, mortals no longer had access to Valinor. He says Valinor, a paradise, and even Erisea are removed, remaining only in the memory of the earth. Men may sail now west, if they will, as far as they may, and come no nearer to Valinor or the Blessed Realm, but return only into the east, and so back again, for the world is round and finite, in a circle inescapable, save by death. Only the immortals, the lingering elves, may still, if they will, wearying of the circle of the world, take ship and find the straight way, and come to the ancient or true west, and be at peace. It is a place of peace, of restfulness. So that is how Tolkien describes all of this, right? And Galadriel's like, nah, I'm out, rejects it, thinks that it's evil, and is like, I'm going to go do my mission here on Middle-earth that I think is more important than the peace, restfulness, blissfulness with the gods, right? With God, with Jesus Christ, with God the Father and the Trinity and the Holy Spirit. So just to reiterate, while cutting the scene would not have saved or even redeemed this show, at least this major subversive scene would not be in it. They had the opportunity to do it, and they didn't. They lacked the moral courage. They should have said no. They should have said this scene needs to get cut. It is absolutely anathema to Tolkien, but clearly they were convinced by J.A. Bayona to keep it in, and that is to the detriment of the show. And again, like I said, I don't think that cutting this would have redeemed the show. The show has all kinds of absolutely terrible aspects to it that are subversive, that are trying to push this wicked agenda where they're trying to twist what is good and true as evil and wrong, and then turn what is evil and wrong into what is good and true. They are trying to do that. There's lots of that in this show, but at least this major one would not have been in it, and that would have been a good thing that they weren't trying to push, or that this specific wicked theme wasn't in there, and I think that would have been good. But they lacked the courage to do it, and instead they kept it in to the detriment of the show. And again, wouldn't have really saved the show, but it would have been at least a modicum better than what the final product was that they got. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.
Why would you be afraid of the people? Why are you not afraid of God instead of man?